Alright, today we're going to go over the post-test study guide it's gonna be for 1 through 9. Alright, so first 9 problems of this post-test study guide, pretty easy. State which metric unit you would use to measure the dimensions of your piece of paper. So metric was like centimeters, meters, kilometers. So for number 1, I would use centimeters. Meters would be like like if I told you to measure your paper, you wouldn't measure it in feet, right? You measure it in inches, and inches and centimeters go together. So feet and in inches and miles, that's customary units, versus metric, which is like centimeter, millimeter, kilometer, stuff like that. Mass, that's weight. The textbook, I'd probably measure in ounces or pounds if I was using customary, but um, since we're using mass, I would actually take grams or kilograms, because I would say a geometry textbook usually weighs, you know, 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So I would say kilogram. I would say kilogram or even grams. Grams would be kind of small though. All right. All right. Number 2. Remember, I have 240 inches. I'm going to multiply it by something. Remember, that's going to be 1. So my inches to feet, 1 1 foot equals 12 inches. That's my conversion. Remember, my conversion is going to go right here. Now, I want inches to go away, so I put inches on the bottom. So that's why I put 12 inches on the bottom. I put 1 feet on top because I want to end in feet. So now it's going to be 240 all over 12. The inches cancel, so it's going to be my feet. So 240 divided by 12 is going to be 20. So 20 feet. Alright, 64 fluid ounces. So 64 fluid ounces in cups. So I have 1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces. That's my conversion. So I'm going to write it out. 64 fluid ounces. I'm going to multiply. Remember, this is going to be equal to 1. Right? So that's equal to 1 because it's a conversion. Same thing here. Um, that's going to be equal to 1 right there. So I'm going to put 1 cup on top of 8 fluid ounces. The reason I put 8 fluid ounces on the bottom is because I want the ounces to cancel. So this is going to be 64 over 8 cups. So this is just 8 cups. Alright, in number 3, we have 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. So I'm going to make 22.5 pounds. I'm going to multiply. Remember, my conversion is always going to be equal to 1. So I'm always multiplying by 1. I see it right here in the last problem. That equaled 1 because the conversion will always equal 1. Now, I put pounds on the bottom. I put kilograms on top. I don't even worry about the numbers yet. I just worry about making sure my labels are in the right spot because I want pounds to cancel. I want kilograms to end. So I put 1 and then 2.2. So I have 22.5 all over 2.2. So I just do that in the calculator. I end up with 10.2, let's say 10.23. Some people are forgetting their labels. Alright, make sure you have your work and your labels on here. I added the conversion chart that I attached as a hint page to in case you were trying to figure out where I'm getting some of these numbers. So in case you're worried, like where did I get 1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces right here. I think it's really the only one I used. But I'm going to use 1 liter equals 2.1 pints right now. So I'm going to take liter into pints. So for 3B, I have 1 liter equals 2.1 pints. So I have 16 liters. I'm going to multiply. I'm going to put pints on top this time and liters on bottom. So now I have 2.1 pints over 1 liter, which means I'm going to do 16 times 2.1. I end up with 33.6. The liters cancel, and that's why I'm left with pints. And that's it for 3B. Our probability is going to be the number of successes of an outcome. The number of successes over the number of outcomes. Alright, so number 4, we know the total number of outcomes is going to be 6 when you roll a die. You could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. I need to know the number of successes. Well, I want numbers that are less than 4, so it's going to be 1. It's going to be 1, 2, or 3. So I have 1, 2, or 3. That's 3 different numbers. So 3 over 6 is 1/2. So remember, when you do you must have your original fraction and reduced fraction of percent. So I have my original fraction, here's my reduced fraction, or that's 50%. Because probability is always going to be percent between 0 and 1. Like if you got 1 over 2 on a quiz, it'd be 50%. Now, same thing for B. I have 6 total outcomes because I'm rolling a die. 1 or 6, it's 2 of them. That's going to be 1/3 or 33 and a third percent. Either one of these two answers are okay. Either this or this are totally okay answers. All right. 5. A jar contains 65 pennies, 27 nickels, 30 dimes, and 18 quarters. So I add those all up together first to get my total number of outcomes. So I do 65 plus 27 plus 30 plus 18, and I get 140. So my total outcome, my outcome total equals 140. All right. So I have pennies or quarters. That means I'm allowed to take pennies or quarters. So I do 65 plus 18. I end up with 83. Now it's over 140. So there's a couple ways to do this. If you want to reduce fraction, the easiest way for you guys, if you're using a calculator, just 83 ABC 140 will reduce it for you. This cannot be reduced, so that means you're going to give me the percent. So 83 divided by 140 is 59.3%. Now 83 divided by 140 is 0.59. Remember, percent, you move it to decimal places, so it's 59.28. So I'm going to round that up to it's about 59.3%. So for not a quarter, all right, I have 140 total outcomes. I'm going to take away 30, 27, and 65 because those are all not a quarter. All right, so 65. Or I'm going to add those 3 together, I'm sorry. So 65 plus 27 plus 30. So those are all my not quarters. There's 122 not quarters. So I have 122 over 140. All right. I could simplify that. I could divide everything by 2 and give me 61 over 70. All right. So this could be equal to 61 over 70. Or, most of us are going to put a percentage because that makes probably no sense. So the percentage of not a quarter is about 87.1%. All right. So the table shows the experimental in which a die was rolled. Find the experimental probability. So experimental probability is what actually happened. So I count them up. So there's 6 and 4 is 10. There's 25. So that's my total number of outcomes. So the experimental probability of a 3 is going to be 7 over 25. Alright? So 7 over 25 is 28%. Now, the theoretical probability of rolling a 3 is 1 over 6, or 16.66%. Or we'll say 16 and 2/3%. Alright? Now, how do they compare? Well, in this experiment, three overperformed the theoretical probability by over 10%. That's a pretty significant increase in what we expected. If you would have guessed that you were going to get 7 out of the 25 rolls, I don't know if you would have guessed that. Alright, 7 on our post-test study guide. Now remember, I'm telling you A, B, and C, so the first thing I'm going to do whenever I'm doing a problem like number 7 is I'm going to rewrite wherever I see an empty set of parentheses, or wherever I see a letter, I'm going to put an empty set of parentheses. So I put 3 empty set of parentheses, 5 set of parentheses, plus empty set of parentheses. Alright, now B is 3, so I put 3 in right here. A is -2, so I put -2 in right there. C is 1, so I'm going to put 1 in right there. I'm going to do the top and bottom separate, so do top and bottom separately. Alright, that's the most common mistake I see. Somebody tries to do it all at once and they make a mistake. If you're going to do it all at once in your calculator, you need to make sure you have parentheses there and parentheses there. Alright, I don't think you need to do that. Just make it 9 over 5 times -2 is -10. -10 plus 1 is -9. So my answer is just going to be -1. Alright. 24, B is going to be 24 plus the absolute value. Instead of D, I'm going to put -4 minus 4. Now remember, absolute value is like basically parentheses, except where if it's a negative number after you do all the work, then it becomes a positive number. So this becomes 24. -4 minus 4 is -8. This right here turns into positive 8, so it becomes 24 plus 8, which is 32. Alright? Remember, evaluate means give me a number answer. We're done. Alright, last one we're going to do, number 8. I believe I did 9 through 12 on another video. Is I'm using PEMDAS backwards to solve. Now remember, whenever you use PEMDAS backwards to solve, alright, addition and subtraction undo each other, multiplication and division undo each other, and then remember we want to have one variable. Alright, so for 8, I have one type of variable, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put all my variables on one side. So I'm going to minus 10c from both sides. Right. That's going to give me minus 14 equals 6c minus 8. Now I can use PEMDAS backwards. There is subtraction, so that's why I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So I add 8 to make that negative 8 goes away, which means I do it to both sides. So I get negative 6 equals 6c. Right? There is no more subtraction, there is no addition, there's no division, there's multiplication. How do I get rid of multiplication? Well, I just divide both sides by 6. I get c, I just wrote the c on the left, equals negative 1. Now you can always plug that back in to check your work. 10 times negative 1 minus 14. I get minus 24. That should equal 16 times negative 1 minus 8, which is negative 24. So it's correct. That's how we check our work. There's a couple different ways to do B. I think the easiest, like I said, is I'm going to do primitives backwards. So primitives backwards. There is subtraction, but that subtraction is actually inside the parentheses, so I cannot add 3 to both sides. There's no division, no addition, there's no division, there's multiplication. Now, there are some people who will distribute that. That's a bad habit later in math. It will work in this problem, so if you want to distribute that negative 5, you totally can. But I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do is, how do I get rid of multiplication? You get rid of multiplication by division. So the first thing I do is divide by negative 5. So I get b minus 3, look, parentheses are gone, equals 6. Now I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So b equals 9. Alright. Now just check my work, negative 5. 9 minus 3 equals negative 30. Well, 9 minus 3 is 6. So I get negative 5 times 6. That does equal negative 30. So we're good. And that's it.